Hello, Virginie. It's so nice to meet you and have this taste and chat together. My name is Lena Särnholm, and I'm a journalist here based here in Stockholm, Sweden. And I work both as a freelancer and in a wine bar to meet people and have a chat and so. And so maybe you tell a little about who you are and a bit about your background.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Lena. Finally, it's a pleasure for me as well. So my name is Virginie Maignien. So I come from the east of France. It's an important detail because of that origin, I like a certain type of wine, but we will see that later when we taste the wine. And I made many things in my life because first I have a training in business school and art school, and I worked for the French Museum before deciding to create wine. And I went back to school in Beaune, in Burgundy, to learn very quickly how to do wine and how to manage the vines. For 1 year, and then I met Patrice Lescaret, who was my boyfriend, my partner, business partner, and love partner for 40 years, and we ran together the vineyard Causse Marines, and it was for me a big experience because even if I wanted to produce wine biodynamically, as soon as I began the wine activity, I had the opportunity with Patrice to work in organic vineyard and practice the biodynamic rules as soon as I began, as well as the natural wine. So I have a big experience in that field. And life is life. So sometimes we can have a shared direction, and so we get divorced. And I decided, and many people ask me, what are you going to do now? And I said, wine. Why this question? I know how to do wine, so why I can't continue by myself? And Calce and Roussillon was for me an evidence. It was that place and not another place. And I arrived in Calce in August, in the 19th August 2019. So it's very funny. And very quickly I found some plots of vines, and everything was very clear and very simple. I found the vines, I found the partners, I got some friends in that village, and I produced my first vintage in 2020 by myself, and I was very proud of that.
And I must ask, why Roussillon? Why did you get so fascinated about Roussillon?
I like to say that there were two reasons. Love and light. Love because I love that place, and I have some friends in that village, and I like the wines for a while also. I remember the first white wines I liked from Calce was the Calcinaire from Gérard Gobi, and always, each time I tasted that wine, I have the impression to be in Alsace with a Riesling because it was so fresh. And the first time I came to Calce, it was in 2003, and it was just at that time where I decided to change the direction of my life, and I came to Calce to see, okay, I like the wine here, maybe there is something I can do, but the life decided to stay in another place. And the other reason, light is for me, light is very important. Light in the painting, light in life, light for all the meanings we can have beyond that that word. And light in Roussillon, because of the wind, because of the sea and the mountains, it's very typical. That's the reason why some painters like Matisse, when they came here in Collioure, for instance, they say that the light here reveals something very special. So for these two reasons, made completely in not rational at all, but that's the reason why I came here.
And Calce must be a very special. Is it a village? It's very, very small, but you have so many nice natural winemakers. Is it? You say talk about the light. Is it also the terroir? What's so special with Calce?
I think of course, the terroir of Calce is very special. If you can see geological maps, you will see that there is a very special ground here in that area, a mix of different things like schist, limestone, so it's very rich and very very different kind of soils. So I think for me it's something really important. And if you can taste all the wines of the different winemakers, you will see that even if they are different, you have a similar point. And for me, it's really the terroir of Calce. That's the first things. And after, I will see, because I'm very sensitive to energy, and I can say that once you arrive in Calce, it's a small village, 220 people for 10 winemakers. So the proportion is very interesting, and mainly for the bar, it's good because you are sure that you will have good wine. But it's true that there is something special in that village, in the way of people sharing things, and not only the wine but other projects in the village. So I can't explain that with very specific points, but I can say that each time I arrive in that village, I can feel something very strong and very special. My cellar is not in village, it's at Espira, at 10 kilometers from Calce, and it's completely different. The atmosphere, the feeling is very different. And for me, that kind of impression is very important.
Yeah, I heard also you are very engaged in the village with the different projects. Can you mention something that you do?
Yeah, of course. So the last project is a piece of theater we share in all the village. So it's very funny. This is the last project I have with other people in the village. But concerning the wines, when I arrived there, I knew very well Olivier Piton and Jean-Philippe Padier, who were some friends of mine. And because of them, I arrived at Calce and I stay at Calce, and they helped me a lot. And after that, I met the other winemakers, but they were only men. And for me, in my life, for many different reasons, even I like men, even I can thank them for all the different things they bring to me, but wine world is still a man world. And for me, it was very important to show that even if you are alone, if you are a woman alone in a vineyard, you can do things differently, not better, not worse, but differently, but it's possible. And I wanted to give the opportunity to other women to see that it was possible, even if you can't drive a tractor, or even if you are not very big, very strong, just to find the way of modifying the project to be able to do things. And a friend of mine, Perrine, with whom I worked when I was in Gaillac, she arrived to help me for the first vintage. And then I found some vines, and I proposed her to take these vines and to set up in Calce. And then she stayed there with now her own vineyard, and 3 other women that I met for different reasons. I say, okay, maybe we can do something together, and that was the beginning of the project Gipsy Queen, to do things together. And I'm very convinced by that we can do things together. It doesn't mean we lose our freedom, but we can share the potential, the capacity, the abilities, and then the project can be easier to manage. And then we together we did the first vintage. So now I decided to let them managing the project alone, and they keep on producing wine in 2022 and now in 2023. But I'm very happy to give them the opportunity to see, okay, we are alone, but we can do wine.
Yeah, that's nice. And I think about your name, La Spanda, it means vibrations, if I'm right.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did you choose this name?
Because it sounds Catalan language. It sounds Spanish language. This is the first reason, but I was sure that people are going to ask me, what does it mean? And Spanda, it's a name, it's a word I knew for a while. And as soon as I heard this word and the meaning, I said, okay, it would be the name of my vineyard later. And I practice yoga for a while, and I'm very attracted by the Tantric yoga. And Spanda is a Tantric word, which comes from a very spiritual old school, and it means by cosmic vibration. It means that everybody, if we are very sensitive to what happened now, we can feel all the different things we see, but also we can't see. And it gives the opportunity to be connected to things which are bigger than ourselves. So this works, links for me at the same time my spiritual direction, and also my way of working and feeling the wines and the vines and be connecting with the elements. So that's the reason why for me this word was perfect, and I was okay with that, because many people ask me, what does it mean? What does it mean? And I say, okay, keep on ground, and you will see, because it means cosmic vibration.
So I suppose for you it was quite natural to work organic and in natural way. This was the only way for you to go.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I decided to change my life almost 20 years ago, the wine I like to drink most of the time were biodynamics. So I was attracted by that kind of wine. And then I discovered the spirit and the philosophy of Steiner. And I don't know why, but it sounds very clear for me to work like that, and to work with the energy, with the visual things, but also the things we feel, but we most of the time we can't see physically, but we can feel them. That's what I explained, the energy and the feeling I have when I arrive at Calce. So I say, okay, I will work differently. So I directly work like that, and that's what I said at the beginning when I met Patrick from Causse Marines, because he works organically for a while, and I say, okay, so we are going to work biodynamically. Do you agree with that? And he said, okay. So as soon as I arrived at the vineyard in 2005, we work biodynamically, and I never stopped, because for me it's more than an agricultural way of working. It's also a way of life, because it doesn't stop just to your your fields or your cellar or your wines and vines, but it's much more than that. It's also the way of being connecting with the weather, with the atmosphere, with the soil, with the animal life. So it's very important for me to work like that, and I never stopped since that time.
And then maybe you see the picture in the background here. It's your vineyards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell a little about this? And I can see that the background is, you can see a bit of the landscape. It looks very, very dry.
Very dry, and I think it was last year. These pictures, it's drier this year. So yeah, we are really in a Mediterranean region, and I like to say that Calce for me, and the area of Calce is a mineral part. Stones and mineral energy is very strong there. And we have a lot of wind. The famous wind we have called the tramontane. It's a north wind, northwest wind, most of the time fresh. It brings the light and also the dryness. So it's good for the disease because it's avoid having some disease like mildew. But it's sometimes, and especially this year, also a problem, because if we don't have enough rain, the wind is not a good partner also. So
how far from the sea is it? How far?
I think from my vines we can see the sea, and I will say that the sea is at 6-8 kilometers from the vine directly.
And you have the mountains in the background.
Yeah, we have the mountain, we have the Pyrenees in the south, and in the area of Calce, the average altitude is between 200 meters and 350 meters. So it's quite the mountain if we compare to the city of Perpignan, which is at the level of the sea. So we can have fresh climate compared to Espira or Rivesaltes. It is fresher, and the temperature we have most of the time 2 or 3 degrees of difference with the sea and the coast. So it's quite important, especially during the summertime. But it's a very, very dry area. So we need to think about how we can replant trees, how we can respect the vines, how we can respect the water and try to save water. And so it's a completely different question that I had when I was in Gaillac, because water is more important and we have more in Gaillac. So it's completely different way of managing also the work at the vines and trying to keep the biodiversity, because water is life also, and how we can have life with a big lack of water.
So here we have another picture when you're in the vineyard. I suppose you look at the sugar level on the grapes. Yeah. Was it last year?
Yeah, it was this year, and it was just before the harvest to decide when we are going to begin the harvest, when we are going to pick the grapes. So yeah, we begin the harvest very early in the Roussillon. I think we are certainly the first one to pick the grapes. It's in August, beginning of August. Is
it earlier compared to when you arrived?
Well, for the moment, I can't say that because I arrived 3 years ago, so it's quietly the same period, beginning of August. But if I discuss with the elder people in the village, they told me that before the harvest was in September. So I noticed that also when I was in Gaillac. I think the last 20 years, yes, the date of the time to pick the grapes is earlier and is getting earlier and earlier.
Is it difficult to decide the date of harvest, considering the grape can't be too high in alcohol, but you can't harvest too early because you need the flavors in the grapes? Is it difficult to decide the date?
Well, it's always a period where we are not very comfortable because we have to make a choice, and it's very difficult to make the choice. And it's true that one of the problems in the south of France is the level of alcohol, and it can be very high because the dryness and the hot temperatures. So we have to be very careful about that. But it's true that we can produce wine with lower degree of alcohol, but then we have to change the way of vinifying. So I try to have, I like the wine. That's the reason why I explained that I come from Syrah, because I like that kind of wine, the wine with the acidity, with freshness, with the fruit, with tannin, but very sweet. So I try to have that things with my vines and grapes in the south of France. So for me, the first criteria to choose the date of the picking is to taste the grapes. So I taste a lot of grapes, even if I don't like grapes, but I taste a lot. And when I have the feeling with the tannins, the acidity, the freshness, the flavors, the colors, then I check the degrees. And I try to say, okay, it seems okay. And after we have to do many choices with the pickers, with the different place we have to harvest. So this is a period where the winemakers are not very kind and safe and cool, I would say.
But this is something that impressed me with the wines from Roussillon and Languedoc, that you have these mature flavors, but at the same time they are so fresh. For me, it's kind of paradox. But how do you get this?
Alors, the first reason is also the time you pick the grape. This is the first reason. But the second reason, and it's a very important reason for me, is also the work in the vines, and especially biodynamic. And for me, I noticed that already when I was in Gaillac. It brings much more acidity, freshness, vitality, and strength. That's the reason why also the wines give this impression, even if you can't notice big difference of level of acidity in the analysis. And the third reason is also the terroir of Calce, and that's for me an important reason, because if I compare, because I buy some grapes also for some of my wines, and they come from different terroirs, and we can see the difference. If you have the same grapes, for instance, I tasted this year with Muscat Alexandrie, you won't have the same level of acidity, the same flavors when you taste it, because the ground is different. Though there is really a link between the ground, the vintage, and the climate, of course, and the winemaker, because we decide to pick the grape at a certain level on a certain place, and then we decided to do it in a certain way. And all these different reasons give for me the freshness, because also I like that kind of wine. So my direction is with all these different points to go in that direction and to get closer and closer of that point.
Yeah. Yes. So now maybe it's time to start a tasting. We have 7 different wine to taste. So I leave to you to start maybe first a little about the picture in the background. It's from the harvest, I see.
Yeah, exactly. So I pick all the grapes by hand because some of the place I have are not very. It's not possible to get into with a tractor. So hand and fruit are my best tractors. And yeah, I have 5 hectares, red and white, and I need 1 month to pick everything. And because the Muscat and Carignan are completely different, have completely different harvest time. And at the cellar, I use only natural yeast from the terroir, from the cellar, and I don't use any specific process to do the wine. For me, if the wines are good, if the grapes are good, after that I need to check and follow the fermentation, but I don't need to use some external products to make the wine. And so I try to be like in my wines, very sensitive to what happened, and just control and see that we have no trouble at all.
So, which one do you suggest to start with?
I like to begin with the red and finish by the white. So if it's okay for you.
You took with you from Jura. I know in Jura they prefer to start with the red.
Yeah, yeah, because with the white we have so many different kind of vinification, with the sweet, with the sparkling, and so on. So that's the reason why I prefer begin with the red. And if it's okay for you.
Yeah, of course. So
and the first one we can begin is No End in 2020. So the red.
Yeah.
And
this is pure Syrah, if I'm right?
Yeah, exactly. For 2020, this year pure Syrah. The next vintages, I added a lot. I added a small part of Grenache, but 2020 was a very, very wet vintage in the Roussillon compared to the other part of France. And I think it was very good for Syrah, because for me, I like the Syrah from the Vallée du Rhône. You know, this with this floral and very light and flavors, not the spicy flavors. So that's the reason why I decided to choose a plot for Syrah in 2000.
Short maceration on this.
Sorry.
It's a very short maceration on this wine.
Yeah, exactly. So everything is the stock. So I don't use the raffles. Yeah. And I keep it during 1 week without doing nothing, just checking that the top of the vat is not too dry, not to have the acid and vinegar flavors. So I just checking the top of the vat, but that's all. And after 1 week, I press the grapes and I blend the juice and the press together, and that's all. The only thing I check after is the reduction, because with the Syrah, most of the time we can have that trouble. So I just try to check we don't have a lot of reduction. If I have it, I rack the vat and I try to have the juice on a very little part of leaves to avoid the reduction of the wine.
I really like the nose. It's very floral, very, very pure, straight.
And that's what we talk about, the level of alcohol. So I decided to keep the Syrah just at the borderline of maturity. So it's not too mature, so we don't have the spicy taste, but it's not too light also.
And I really like that the texture is quite smooth. It's very elegant and smooth.
So there is no specific aging for that. For me, it's really to have fruit freshness, facility, and pleasure with that kind of wine.
Yeah, and it also brings the floral side of Syrah, not so much the spicy. It's more floral.
Mm. So this is also the typicity of 2020. It was a good vintage of transition for me between Gaillac and Roussillon, because this was the first time for a while they had so many rain in 2020 in Calce. So I managed to master the mildew and all these kind of diseases at the vine. So it was good transition for me.
Yeah. Which grapes do you work with in Gaillac? Is it more like
I had Syrah also, but after the grapes are completely different, because I had in red Duras, Brocol, Prunelard, Syrah, and in white Mosaic, Ondinque, Sémillon, Muscadelle. And in Roussillon, I poured the Syrah, but I have Carignan, Grenache, Liédonner Pelut, which is indigenous grapes from Roussillon, and I have in white Macabeu, Grenache Blanc, Grenache Gris. I planted Carignan Blanc, and I also have the Muscat Petits Grains and Muscat d'Alexandrie.
So, and then the next one is, you want to taste this?
Daya, I think we can taste.
Daya means...
but Daya means love and compassion. And I choose that name because they come from my vines, and I don't really like the Grenache Noir. I have difficulty to understand it and to appreciate it. So I say, okay, if I call it love, maybe I will learn how to love it. That's the reason why.
Don't you like it? What
but it can be, because Grenache can be very very sweet and very with a lot of tannins. It's it's difficult with Grenache. The maturity are very different, and it's very difficult to find the good maturity. Not to avoid being like a Mori, very very strong, and that this is not the type of wine I like. So how we can find some freshness without being under maturity or over maturity. So it was difficult for me to approach and find good Grenache.
So for the vinification here, how is it? A quite short maceration again?
So this is also a short maceration, but for the Grenache, I use I keep the grapes entire, and I put them in the vat. I had a little juice of white Grenache to start the fermentation, and then I keep 10 days controlling everything, because the problem with that kind of vinification is to have some volatile acidity. So I check everything, and after 10 days I press, but I keep separately the press and the juice. And I decide or not to blend them.
I like it. You can feel it's the same style of the terroir and the winemaker here, but it's a bit more same smoothness, elegant, but it's a bit more robust earthiness, I think. I like it, but it's still on the light side, but bit more rustic, something to bite on. I like it. Very very elegant tannins. It's
for me, Daya and all the wines I produce with my vines are more to eat with, because the terroir I have chosen in Calce, they have a better potential for this kind of wines. The terroir I have chosen for the Négoce cuvée, No End, you have tasted just before, I decided to choose terroirs which are deeper and can give wine with higher yields and a very different expression. That's the reason why I explained before that the terroirs are very important. And I like things which are light but with deepness, with you know depth. I don't know the
like an iceberg. You taste just the top, but you can feel there's something deep under.
Yeah, exactly.
A wine that is light and elegant, they can also be complex. It doesn't have to be a heavy wine to be complex in the flavor.
Exactly. You can be but it's like a person. You can have a complex person, not too complicated, or with no, just with the sensitivity, with the yeah. I think maybe this is my feminine approach.
You can make you can be easygoing but complex at the same time. It's no.
Exactly. And with the wine, it was important for me to have that point of complexity, because there is a trend in Roussillon to do, entire great vinification and to have juice. But if you don't have the terroir, you won't have. You will have just a grape juice, okay. But if you have the terroir, you will have easygoing or easy drinking wine, but with complexity, with questions, because you have the terroir to bring that.
You want to feel, to taste where the wine comes from. Otherwise, it's just any drink, so to say.
Yeah, of course. After that, all the wines are the same, and it's not interesting at all.
No. And then the last red is Carignan, if I'm right.
Yeah, so Prithvi Mata. Prithvi Mata means Earth's mother, and it's I have chosen that name because I have 2 plots of Carignan, and the vines are very very old. They are more than 85 years old, and one is a limestone ground, and the other one is a schist terroir. So in biodynamic, these 2 different terroirs brings 2 different energies. The limestone is really the earth energy, as well as whereas the schists are more the sky energy. And I find it was very interesting to blend them to have something very well balanced. And especially with very old vines of Carignan. And I really like the Carignan for its character, for its strength. It's fruity. It can be very elegant, but at the same time, there is something very strong. And for me, it's a really great wine, and I'm very happy to have to do that for my first vintage.
Yes, I like it. It's like the wine start from this red is like, I don't know the English word, but I think trip trap sure they are more. You get more intense, and now here in Carignan you have again it's quite intense in the flavor, but it's not heavy. It's still light, fresh. With this, it has a dark side that I like. And again. The vinification here is a bit longer maceration.
Yeah, this is 3 weeks of maceration, and everything was distilled by hand. So I kept the berries entire to have the fermentation, and I just do some like for the Syrah, I just try to maintain the top of the vat not too dry and I took care of the sanitary aspect of the top of the vat. But after that I press, I blend the press and the juice, and I keep it 10 months in amphore.
Ah, that's maybe the sensation of the smoothness. I tasted a lot of wines made in amphora, and I try to understand what the amphora gives to the wine. And I think it's one thing is this smoothness, roundness.
Right. But,
experience.
and for me, yeah, the amphora are very interesting. So it's not terracotta, which is more in relation with the external part. So it's grès. So I don't know the word in English, but it's cooked at 1,200 degrees. So, but I really like that content because it's, for me, it's really a way of having the pure juice, and so the contact with the external. It's not like a vat where the content of the material can interfere, like inox or fiber or. So we have the interest of the contact with the external environment, but we keep really the freshness and the essential of the wine. So I really like that content for that reason.
And why did you choose Carignan for the amphora and not the other one?
Because so I use also for the Grenache, but not only. I also had some wood, old wood barrels for the Grenache, but for Carignan, for me, because Carignan can be very elegant, but at the same time very wild, and I think you need to have something very pure and to master this wild character of the Carignan. And I tasted also that in 2019 when I did the vinification with Olivier Piton, and I really liked the typicity of Carignan after an aging in amphora. That's also one of the reasons why I decided to try the aging for Carignan.
Amphora, is it from, are they from Italy, or where are they from, or from France?
From Italy they come.
Yes, it's really, you can feel the wild side, but they are tamed by the amphora.
Yeah.
So this was the red. So for the white?
Yes, for the white. We can start with the beginning, with no beginning. So the one with the snake, and so that's also grapes I bought to very good person, very good grape producer. I really like them, and I'm very happy with the partnership we have together. So it's not only I buy some grapes and that, so it's really a collaboration with them. So I really like that.
The same amount every year to make this cuvée?
Yeah, so I try to choose the terroir first, and after I'm doing with what I want. But the terroir was the most important thing. So there were some changes the last 3 years because François Xavier, to whom I bought the grapes, I decided to keep the grapes to develop his own wine activity. So I found a new partners with Philippe Morat and Lionel Condoret. So now I have chosen 3 plots, one for the Syrah, one for the Grenache Blanc, and one for the Macabeu, and I kept them for the future. And then I will have always the same roots because I have the same terroir for that cuvée. Even if it's not mine or my grape, it comes from a terroir, and I have chosen that terroir for specific reasons. So No Beginning is a blend of Grenache and Macabeu. So it's very simple. It's press, and after that I blend the two different grapes, and I just let them. So I regularly taste, like for the grapes before the harvest, I taste the wine regularly, and if I smell or feel something which is not okay with me, I will do some analysis, and then I can rack the wines or decide to do something. But it's very simple for me.
And the grapes, do you harvest them at the same time or different times and blend?
No, I don't. But after, it depends how I can organize my harvest with the team and so on. So, but the idea for me, by having the two different grapes, Grenache and Macabeu, is to find the balance with them, because Grenache Blanc can bring vivacity and acidity if I try to find them a little under maturity. And Macabeu, it's difficult to find the right moment to pick them. So generally, because I know that I have the Grenache, if I am just over maturity with the Macabeu, it's not a problem, because I know that I will compensate. I will do a compensation with the Grenache. So no, it's not the same time for art.
You can feel it in the wine, because there's it's a very mature fruit. There's something really, almost, it starts to begin like high alcohol, but then you have the acidity, the freshness who stop it, who handle it.
Mm.
Yes, it's like when I see the label, it's just exactly how the wine behaves. It's like the snake, and then it bites the acidity bites the alcohol. So it's both deep and fresh. And I like the fruit, and the texture is, again, it's very smooth. You really feel the wine in your mouth.
But feel the wine is important, and I don't know why, but maybe to learn how to do wine correctly. Since I'm in Calce, I always had some trouble with my press. I don't know why, but I learned that I like the wine, the juice we get with very long press. So my press are very long and very, very soft and quiet, but long. And then I get the essence of the grapes, of the berries, and not just juice. And it was very important for me, because I like this touch, when you can feel the skin, but just a little, like when you taste the grapes. Yeah. So it's important for me to have that.
What kind of press do you have? Is it a vertical or horizontal?
It's a pneumatic one, pneumatic press, traditional one. But then I can choose. But at the beginning, I decided, okay, it's easier to press on a button and have the program, so 2 hours. But it never worked with me. So I stayed with the press, and I decided what I'm going to do. And so it's longer, but I like it because it's more precise. And then with all the different grapes, I can't do the same program because I don't have the same raw material. And I like to have this precision for the white.
Nice. And then the next one,
Ayour, we can taste it. Ayour, so this is the Muscat. And Ayour in Sanskrit, Ayour comes from my vines, and it means life in Sanskrit language. And I have chosen that name because Muscat is not very easy at all in the Roussillon. Many people and many winemakers say, okay, Muscat, yeah, okay, it can be very boring, very, very tasty, very with a lot of flavor, but it can be very heavy. So many winemakers don't like that. So they say, okay, good luck with that, because I have one lecture. Okay, I say, okay, thank you guys. I'm going to try to do something. And I tasted a lot of dry, simple Muscat, but it doesn't, I think it misses something. And with the maceration, 100% maceration, it can be too heavy for me. So I did what I did before with Muscat when I was in Gaillac. I wanted to have a structure, but I wanted to have also freshness. So I picked the Muscat Petits Grains, I pressed them like a traditional one, white, and in the juice, at the same time, I picked the Muscat d'Alexandrie, which are under maturity. I keep just the berries, and I put the berries in the juice of Muscat Petits Grains for a long maceration of 1 month and a half, 2 months. But I have a better balance between the juice and the tannins, the texture of the grapes. And with these, by the fact I pick them at the same time, they don't have the same maturity, because it can have 3 weeks of difference between Muscat Petits Grains and Muscat d'Alexandrie. So I have the freshness, the bitterness with the Muscat d'Alexandrie, and the sweetness with the Muscat Petits Grains.
But in the flavors, these two Muscat, are they very different in the flavors, or?
Alors, of course, you will smell the Muscat, you will smell the aromatic, but because I picked them very early, I have more lemon, pomelos aromas, bergamot, verbena, spicy flavors also. So it can be different. But of course, you will have something, you will smell the Muscat d'Alexandrie, the fruit.
Yeah, I really like it. Again, it's very, very more floral than fruit.
Mm.
And also this energy.
And I wanted something also very easy drinking, and with the complexity as for the other one, because I like
some bitterness somewhere inside to that's good for the structure, because it's not too, as you said before, Muscat can be too floral, but there is a bitter bite here that makes it interesting. I think it's but none of them have so much tannins. I don't really feel the tannic structure here. It's very weird.
And that's the reason why I decided to change the proportion with the juice, because if I have only grapes, I will have more tannins, and also I decided also to destock the grapes, to keep just the berries, to avoid having the green flavors of the ruffles. And with all these different elements, you have the tannins, but just like a strength to the juice and not something heavy. It's
yes,
it's important.
You don't feel them as tannins, but you feel some kind of structure, maybe this bitterness that's good for the whole. I really like it.
And the purpose is that once you drink one glass, you want to drink another one. That's what the purpose.
You succeed with that, I can promise. And then the question, we have 2 left. One is a really interesting one, is Muscat from 87 and a sparkling one. So which one do you want to?
Maybe we can continue with the Muscat, with the Anna 1987, and then we will finish with the Macabeu and the sparkling wine, to be clear for the rest of the day. But Anna is a very, very, very interesting story, because I was the 2 first vintages. I was in a cellar that I shared with François-Xavier Doré and at Espira de l'Agly, and I wanted to find a place for me to vinify. And everybody said that it's very complex. It's very difficult to find a building where you can vinify for different reasons. But I was very lucky, and I found a place. And when I visited them, I visited with the owner. The name is Christian, and he was 75 years old. And once he opened the door, I get into the cellar and I say, okay, it will be there. And I had the impression that this place was waiting for me. It was a very, very extraordinary sensation. And so he told me when I decided to buy the place, that in a vat there was a rest of Muscat that his mother vinified in 1987, the vintage where they stopped the production. So the last vintage produced in that place. And he said, you can keep for you. But he thought it was just 1 hectoliter. But so when I arrived with my little vat, 3 hectoliters, I began to wrap from the top because it was at the top of the place. So with all the different of temperatures, winter temperatures 8 degrees and summer temperatures 35 degrees, and I began to take it. And in fact, I had 700 liters of a very beautiful juice. I made the analysis. So there were 125 grams of residual sugars, no sulfites, no volatile acidity, because time has just done its job.
Yeah.
And it was really perfect. So it's a kind, what we call the rancio, sweet rancio. Mm-hmm. So it means that time gives this oxidative notes, but the wine keeps the freshness and the vivacity.
Yes, it's very, it's like it makes you silence. It's like drinking time. Your brain try to figure out what's going on, because it's both intense and smooth. Yes, it's sugar, but it's also very fresh. I try to find the words for it.
Well, silence is a good word.
Yeah, I think so, because it's not a meditative wine. It's because there's so much going on. It's like a little universe, and it's hard to imagine it's from 87. It's still so alive. It's very, yes, I think it is very alive. This is you can feel it. This wine will fight forever. It will never give up the acidity, the freshness. It's a very brave wine, I think, that survived all this time.
And time for me is very essential in the wine. And I think that we forgot that in our society, because we want to be faster and faster, and I went fast. So but I think it's important sometimes to have that kind of wine where, okay, we just wait. And once would be the time, the right time, everything would be okay, like our meeting, you know.
Yes.
And I like this approach, and for me it was a symbol, a kind of a beautiful gift, because the name of the woman who made this wine was Anna, and that's the reason why I decided to give this name to this wine. And it's nobody went into that cellar between her and I, and it was a very good transition and transmission and gift from the universe for me. So I feel really well in that place, and I think it's good to have that wine.
I think you can feel this in the wine. It feels like it's a gift to the human nature that we can taste this kind of nectar. It's after all these years, it's amazing. It's really nice.
And Muscat can give that really sweet, great wines if we give them time to be in the essence of Muscat. So I'm very happy to promote that now also with the Muscat.
Yes. So it's almost a shame to wash away this feeling. I go back again.
But after the sparkling, you still have in the bottle, and you will taste again. Because after hours and hours, it would be a give and give.
Yes. So then we have this. It's Macabeu, the last one.
Yeah, yeah, Folalier. So, but because I come from Gaillac, and in Gaillac there is a big tradition of sparkling wines with the ancestral methods. So I wanted to do that the first year I arrived in Calce. So I did it with Macabeu. I renewed that this year with Muscat Alexandrie. So it's not very easy to do sparkling white wine in the Roussillon because of the climate and the temporality. So I have the Macabeu. I filter them with the help of the Plagial family, and I use the traditional filtration system to clear the wine before bottling them. And after, where nature did its job in the bottle. So the first try was with Macabeu, and I decided to change the grape after. But it was very interesting to add something sparkling with, I think there are just 8 grams of residual sugars. There is a little reduction the last time I tasted them.
Yes, I feel
but it's also the type of the Macabeu with the sparkling. But yes, after that the bubbles are fine. It's fresh. It's easy, like the sparkling I like.
Yes, I like it. It's very straightforward, easygoing. But it has a nice dip. It has a lot of flavors. It's been in the glass now for almost an hour, but it's still alive. It's a kind of curious wine. I think it's very yes, very interesting with to be an ancestral wine of Pet Nat. It has a lot of flavors, and again, this paradox. You feel it's not about acidity, it's about ripe fruit. This sudden paradox I like.
And for me, for the sparkling, it's really difficult to do sparkling wines, and it's important to not to try to find the good maturity, and because if you try to have a sparkling wine with not matured grapes, you will have something very aggressive with the bubbles, the gas, and and if you have over maturity, you will have something which can be heavy. It's not the purpose for pétillant naturel or sparkling wine like that. So it's not easy to find the right level. So I was very lucky for my first sparkling. And no, I think it's good to have the freshness, the maturity, but keeping the acidity and the freshness.
This is your first sparkling. This one.
Yeah, but in Roussillon, yes.
In Roussillon.
Yeah, it was the first.
The first.
yeah. But it's much more difficult to do sparkling wines in Roussillon than in Gaillac, because we have no structure, no tools, and the climates, the harvests are very, very early, and then the fermentation are very quick with high temperature outside, so it's not easy to do it. I think that there is maybe the reason why it was not the tradition in Roussillon to do some sparkling wine. It's the trend now everywhere to produce sparkling, but it's much more complex than what we can think about. to produce sparkling wines.
So, Virginie, I want to thank you so much for this little talk and the tasting, and to make a conclusion and to have a few words about that I think goes for all of the wine is that they're all very gentle, smooth, with a kind of southern power that is shown in a very gentle, smooth way. And especially I like underdogs and Muscat, that as you said, this grape is not so well regarded, but you can't say that, because you have to, if you work it in the right way, you can get some nice out of it. And I think that goes for everything and every kind of grape. If you treat them good from the beginning, you can make something good out of it. So that's
I really agree for that. And I would say that me, truth with myself, with nature, with the wines is very important. And after energy, this way of giving always the best we can. And I would say creation, because creation is the power of life. So I would say that words are very important for me.
Good word for also. It was obvious, so I didn't think about it.
That's the reason why being together, it's better to find and find the right words. Thank you very much, Lena, for this talk, and give me the opportunity to talk about my job, my life, and my wines. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.